Indeed, Webs. It's the last show, homie. The last one of 2020. What say
Yeah. 2020 can suck it, and
you?
don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Oh, it's been a good year, though, to be alive, Webs. It's been very interesting being a sociology major this year, just seeing how groups of people do things. And what they do. It's been very interesting. Um,
Have you seen the lady on YouTube? She's a Canadian comedian, which is kind of fun to say. Canadian comedian, Canadian comedian, Canadian comedian. She does this whole like talking to myself from the future bit, and she just did her fourth one. So my roommate and I went back and we watched all of them, and we're amazed by the things we forgot happened this year. Like,
well, this has been a thing
um,
this year. Like, I, we have not physically been in the same space since March of 2020, which seems like 15 years ago.
yeah, that's accurate.
I mean,
Like, remember at the beginning of the year when Australia was on fire and we thought that was going to be the biggest thing?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they're outside partying right now because they don't have to wear masks because COVID is solved in Australia.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Did you hear that New Zealand just brought them into the pod?
Yeah, and that New Zealand's giving away stuff to poorer countries because why not?
Yeah.
Solve this.
Yeah. And here we are
Indeed,
with all of this
indeed.
right
Which
here.
brings us back to the fact that 2020 was a long year. Right? Like,
It really was.
I mean, we remember we had California was on fire too. Like that was a thing this year as well.
Yeah. The sky was orange.
Yeah, we had a pretty decent sized earthquake for Las Vegas this year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was way back in July.
yeah, we had some very interesting things here, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just here.
Yeah, like who knows what happens other places? Because hack just happened, like record hack. Who knows what information the Russians got away with? So that's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
As my Spanish speaking homies say, nos podemos. So tonight's show, we're gonna talk a little bit about looking backwards, some of the really cool tools and strategies and all that dope stuff that we had the opportunity to kind of experience the school year. I will say this was and we have said this over and over again. This was an opportunity for education to reset itself to like the current century. And I think some people took advantage of that, and I think a lot of people did not take advantage of that. And I think this is going to be a watershed moment. 10 years in the future, people will look back like, we should have done this. And like, yeah, unfortunately, you didn't. So now more people are ill prepared for the rest of the century. But tis what it is. Tis what it is. Webs, if you had to describe your 2020 in a movie, in a novel, or in a song, what would you describe your 2020 as, Webs?
Well,
In those who are watching, use whatever comments. If you're on Facebook, use a comment box, YouTube comments, etc. Let us know this same question. How would you describe your 2020? Be it a movie, be it a song, be it a novel, and why would you use that novel, song, or movie? Go ahead, Webs.
So I'm going to go with a reading from the poet Migos. We came here to see just what you got. Oh, no. Not on my watch. No way. Bring what you got. I'm going to the top. You can bring what you got. I'm going to the top. Bring what you got. Bring what you got. I'm going to the top. We've been grinding hard on the jump. Can't take that from us. No, no, no. Can't take that from us. And scene. So I'm going with Migos. Is you ready? Because 2020 was difficult. However, it presented for us some opportunities. And so I think we are headed in a good direction, and I am excited for what 2021 has to bring.
Indeed, indeed. Have you seen the Benedict Cumberbatch dramatic readings of hip hop songs?
I have not.
Okay, do yourself a favor, Google those once we get off the air. They're quite.
All right.
Yeah. Indeed. Um, yeah. I mean, it's Inception, the movie, just because again, I think the COVID-19 planted ideas in certain people's heads that hopefully people are going to be able to say, okay, cool. I had this time where um, I had some time to reflect. I had time to plan, and even if I didn't have all my plans up to fruition, 2021 is going to be an opportunity to flesh those plans out. I was paying attention to the trends. I really think that we're going to have some really interesting ideas coming out in 2021 in all industries, be it I think the dining and restaurant industry is ripe for disruption. There could be all kind of insane things that come out of that. I think we're going to see a lot more food trucks if you're a food truck person, or mobile restaurants that are smaller scaled, that have I think people have particular menu items that they either shift according to the geography of where they happen to live at, or their mood. I think you're going to see a lot of really really cool stuff. In education, I really think you're going to see the micro school model take off amongst individuals who are thinking being small and agile is far greater a strength than being large and cumbersome. And I think that you saw that with the larger school districts this school year. If you start looking and researching the smaller rurals or the smaller school districts, those rural school districts either go face to face because there wasn't a lot of people in those communities, so they could continue. The school didn't wasn't as disrupted as they as other places, or there were also people that I can afford to experiment and iterate over and over again because of a smaller population and less people that have to be involved. Um, you're seeing with the larger school districts that's not a possibility, and perhaps that's going to move people to disrupt the concept of a large school district as well. What does that mean? Do we need to have large school districts in order to sufficiently and effectively transmit education to our students? So my hope is that this 2021 school year, people were paying attention. People started to question why we were doing things, before. Shout out to Bianca. We got a comment from Bianca. Throw that on the screen.
It's like Antoine Fisher. I'm still here, still strong. I cried for little boy, girl me a few times. Mrs. Tate tried to break me, but I'm here using fancy words, and I have my own money to go to the picture show. I was able to discover who I am as an educator, or Lovecraft Country. The monsters have no power. I have invulnerability.
Indeed.
That's great.
Indeed. So I mean, I think people are doing some dope stuff. I just hope that there are enough disruptors, there are enough innovators in this space that are going to encourage. They're going to shame a lot of school districts into saying, "There's a better way. Let's go." Whether it takes us 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, let's move toward this more efficient and equitable model rather than just doing what we've been doing the whole time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I mean, this pushed a lot, if not every district or close to every district, to get technology for every student. So now everyone is one-to-one. But now it's a matter of figuring out how do you sustain that over time as devices break down and that kind of a thing. I know I was talking to someone about their school, and one of the teachers said, well, what do we do when we go back into the classroom? Where are we going to put all these Chromebooks? Like, where are we going to store them since we're not using them in the classroom anymore? And the person I was talking to was like, that's not how that works. These are for use in the classroom as well. Like, you don't just like put them in a closet. They're tools.
The kids bring notebooks back and forth to school. They can bring their computer.
Exactly.
It is. It's kind of. I mean, like, well, I am cautiously optimistic that we're going to move into a place where, like, it is now required that every student have the internet and a computer. That is like a requirement to live and function in the world. If you do not have those things, as we saw, hundreds of thousands of Nevada students did not have access to the internet nor computers. It's a shame before God.
Finally went to one. I'm leading to professional development. So we just had a bunch of people join. So we were asking at the top of the show if you had to give your 2020, like sum it up in a movie, book, or song, what would that be? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like schools are 1-to-1 because they kind of had to be. So take advantage of that, run with it, see where it goes. I'm excited to get into our lists.
But what and Bianca is saying exactly like broadband should be a situation which people have. Like this should spur 2020 should spur us with this new congressional the new Congress, new Senate, your new state legislatures, all to push to this is the modicum that we're willing to deal with. Everyone should have their right to the internet, whether the state has to provide that internet or not. Something to happen. Every school child in America should have the right to some kind of device that allows me to access the internet in a real sense, not in a sense in which I can't. My mom and my sister can't both be on the internet at the same time as I am, or I'm going to get kicked off, or I can't stream things, or I can't access information that's necessary for me to be a global citizen. I'm tired of the. And this is a small rant. I am sorry. I'm tired of the continued use of the word equity this, equity, and where there is very little in terms of legislation and actions to say we want to guarantee that everyone has the ability to access these things and ability to access these things at the same level rather than I gave you 25 megabits per second for $10 and hey everyone's good when this other kid has high speed of broadband internet that allows them to go and do a number of things at one time. And so yeah, man. I just really, I am going to dedicate my 2021 into, very much calling a lot of the legislators in Nevada to bear in terms of we saw what happened. Let's fix this crap. Let's go on ahead with it. Because I don't want you saying after the 21-22 school year, oh, we're behind when we had the opportunity to be ahead. And that's my deal. Facts, Bianca. So again, that legislative push is going to be huge. If you are not a teacher who's also a political animal at this point, what you waiting for? There is absolutely no reason why you should not be out, if nothing less than telling your story to your elected representatives about how your 2020 went, with whether you're in person, you were hybrid, you were whatever, and saying that this, there are improvements that need to be made, and we need the infrastructure, the money, and the talent quite frankly, in order to get those things accomplished. Small in the rant, in scene, as Webb said before. All right, so we kind of described the year, Webb's. 2020 did have a lot of really dope strategies that came out of it. It was really cool stuff. Like, what would be a strategy right now, Webb's? You're like, hey, I hope this strategy is something that people continue to utilize.
So a strategy that I found was really helpful to me this year, and I can't believe I didn't think of it before now, is subscribing to YouTube channels when I want to learn something or explain my knowledge or like expand my knowledge about a thing. So this does not apply to what do you call conspiracy theories. Just want to be clear on that. But for example, I was trying to learn more about desert gardening. So I subscribed to a bunch of channels on YouTube as well as some people on Instagram. And those are places where I frequent often. My TV tends to be watching YouTube videos. So plus I just asked some folks at work, like, what are your favorite YouTube channels? And subscribe to a few of those that sounded interesting so that they're just automatically in my feed. Because what I found was I was kind of like getting in this rut of the same. I didn't subscribe to much new stuff. There was nothing interesting coming into my environment. So once I found some things that other people liked, I was like, okay, I'll check these out. And it doesn't have to be a permanent thing. You can subscribe to something, and if after a little while you're like, I don't really like this, you can unsubscribe, and it's that easy. But it's a super easy way, in my opinion, to get some new information in. Whether that's like I've been learning more about Azure, I've been learning more about Kubernetes, I've been learning more about gardening, like I mentioned. So if you're looking to kind of expand your universe in an easy way, that's a way to do it.
Facts. I mean, YouTube University is free and open and accessible to everyone who has an internet connection, which again forces us back into the everyone should have the internet in order to learn stuff for free. But that having those channels sent directly to your inbox. Hold on, let me make sure. Let me check. Let me check. Let me check. Let me check. We're still good. So sorry for that brief delay, but I mean, in terms of just like, there she goes.
Oh,
You good?
maybe. Yeah, it just froze.
Okay.
YouTube University is where I got cut off.
All right, so we'll remix the situation very quickly. But YouTube University, again, this kind of forces us back in that conversation of, yo, everyone should have the ability to go to whatever they need, wherever they need to do to learn in order to do what you need to do. So that's the big thing. Like all these things kind of spiral back on one another. I can't do YouTube if I don't have the internet, if I don't have a computer or a device to deal with it with. You know what I'm saying? So my top strategy, or one of my top strategies for the school year, is not teaching, like literally not teaching, and not looking yourself as a
What
teacher.
do you mean? What do you mean by that, Mike?
So one of the like
How can we just not be teachers?
the dopest thing that I learned from the like I will call it our first sprint, right? So we went out in March, and it was like this, sudden, oh my gosh, we don't know what happened. The numbers of cases are going up. Let's pause school. And it happened on my birthday. uh, got out of school on my birthday, and that Sunday evening, the superintendent said, "Hey, we're not going doing school." Like, oh my gosh, this is kind of crazy. Now, there was a 2 week period in which there was like upheaval and chaos and entropy was all over the place. And we, how are we going to contact the kids? Are they going to have devices? All this stuff like that. And in that 2 weeks, it was really interesting to like meditate on what teaching was. And then the 2 weeks happened, and the kids had to pop online. It was more of are kids okay? Um, can we give them long-term projects that they can work on? It was more about it was more empathic, right? We were cared about people. Then in August, we had from between March and August out here to kind of think about how the next school year would look like, right? And those of us who kind of were proactive and we were like thinking about stuff as we went through, we had to put on the designer cap, right? It wasn't a teacher cap we put on, hopefully. And it was, what could school look like? How can I make sure that students can access my materials, whether or not they were homeless, if they had to go to stay in another state with a family, if something happened? How do we make sure those students are going to be able to stay as linear as possible, work as linearly as possible through the curriculum? And as we started to answer those questions as a school, right, and as a little niche PLN, you started to see the teaching part was, to me, was never the struggle, I guess. Webs, the part of the struggle was making sure that students had access to things at a pace that they could handle, rather than we come to school on Monday, I have to cover this on Monday because Tuesday we have to cover this, and Wednesday we have to cover this, and Thursday we have to cover this, and on Friday we test. I don't think that works anymore. I don't think it ever worked, because it left far too many students confused, unresponsive, uninterested. To be frank, if a kid got sick, how do you deal with that? Now we have a situation, at least in Nevada, where we have a learning management system that allows a student from anywhere with a internet connection to be present. And I think that's something that needs to be exploited. That's something that needs to die with the old world. Now we can go and use our in-face time as RTI times, as small group times, as hey kid, you are really struggling with this piece of the curriculum. Let me work one-on-one with you time, and everybody else is dealing with the projects or whatever that I built inside of the learning management system. And so that's my number one strategy. The movement away from teaching as this like face to face, me and 30 people in a room, to me and as smaller people, a smaller group of people as I can get it.
Something I found super fascinating about that was the assumption that the way that things were worked for everyone.
Absolutely.
Because I saw a lot of, oh, whatever will we do? And it's like, you understand that the way that things were didn't work for a lot of kids, right? Like, there are lots of kids that are thriving right now because they're not trying to be, parent to all the other kids in their class because they're just one of those kids that needs to, help everybody. There are kids who don't have to deal with teasing every day because they don't have to face school. That feeling of being on for 8 hours a day as you ride the bus, get to school, navigate all this social situation with no break, that social emotional stress of going through that, that's not a thing. I mean, are there kids that this doesn't work for? Sure. I mean, you're going to have that in every situation. But this idea that the way that things were did work for everyone and was somehow this flawless system. I mean, I think there are still folks who are clinging to that idea and still haven't like had that aha moment of it didn't work. There were a lot of kids and adults even that it just did not work for. But because that's the way that it had always been, we were fine with that somehow, or just kind of ignoring it.
Well,
It's just super interesting to me.
but the ignoring, I think, it was ignoring it to say the truth. Because what happened in the old world when a kid was absent from school? Like you
They
just
had to make
mentioned,
that work up.
you know what I'm
You
saying?
got your packet.
Oh, in 99% of the situations, is Bob's absent from school. Well, Bob is short, man. Like, what are we gonna do? That's on you, Bob. You missed yesterday's work. Miss So and so, what am I supposed to do? I'm gonna give you some work that's out of context, right? That if you cannot teach yourself how to do this packet of work is not going to fundamentally demonstrate to you what actually happened in real time during the class period. When do I ask questions about that, miss? Because you're trying to teach everybody today's lesson. I'm in the corner either trying to pretend that I understand what's going on with today's lesson while not understanding it, especially if it was predicated on me knowing what happened the day that I was absent. With classes like mine, a specialist class, if you're absent on the day, I don't see you again for another week. And so you should come back to class, and we on step 3 of the project. Mr. Lang, I didn't do X, Y, Z. Go watch the video again, right? And that was before. But now, if I can build the entire thing from the first day to the end of the first semester, say, and a kid can come in at any point and still be right where they need to be. You cannot say that you're interested in equity if you're not interested in a system that allows me, no matter when I come into your class, to be as successful as a kid to start at the beginning, right? That you can't talk equity then, and like that's the first thing. What's the next strategy that you wanted that you thought was kind of important for the school year, this calendar year?
Let me look at my notes. Well, okay, I'm gonna kind of skip the second one because you already touched on it, and that was asynchronous content. Like asynchronous lessons, asynchronous video. I can go back and replay it, which I feel like we've kind of talked that to death. So I'm going to skip that one and go to my last one, which is the gym kit trust no one. I feel like having heard your stories of the things that you've done with your classes and a level of engagement that you've reached, I don't know how any teacher wouldn't want to use the trust no one in GimKit. Like it just the amount of like inference, the ability to, we talk about mastery based or competency based learning. We talked about that last week. And I feel like this is a tool that reinforces that so much. It's this opportunity to review questions over and over. It has this high level of engagement because kids are really interested in participating. And I don't know why someone wouldn't want to include that in their class.
Because they don't know about it, that they're not interested in it. I mean, there's a number of like unfortunate reasons why that's the case. I talked to my niece again, and we have to get her back on the show in 2021. Like literally, the teachers still don't know what Among Us is. Like, look, you have to be buried under like 3 or 4 boulders at this point not to know this thing's a thing. And so, um, I don't know, man. I mean, I agree. I love the tool. I think the tool is awesome. We're gonna do every month. We're gonna play a school wide game, so kids were really up for it. Last strategy ish type thing would be like death to grades, man. I mean, if you somebody follows me on Twitter, every couple of weeks I put stop grading them kids. That's the whole tweet. I don't put it. Yeah, if we're talking
That's
about
it. That's the tweet.
you're talking about equity, you're talking about ensuring that all kids have social, emotional learning, and all this kind of stuff. The first thing you have to do if you're honest with yourself and you really are about that life is death to grades. Like there shouldn't be any grades because fundamentally, there's a lot of stress around those. They're not accurate anyway. If I'm in Miss Weber's class and Mr. Lane's class, Miss Weber may be the toughest grader in the school. Mr. Lane's class, I may be like, hey, I don't even know what I'm doing. Everyone gets an A, and suddenly I've got someone because of the luck of the registrar. I got an A out of advanced calculus, and you got a C, and you might be the actual better student according to the course than I am. But the actual tail of the tape does not stay that. I got an A, you got a C. I get into MIT despite not knowing what I'm doing, and you go to go to the public university, but that's just a analogy to make there. But I think that it is very important that we get away in 2021 and forward with the idea of grading being anything substantial in terms of what you know or what you don't know.
Also, like you mentioned, you can't pretend like that's a system that's created for the students because it's 100% not. It's created for parents so that they have a system that they're familiar with because that's what they had. And it's a system for the school so that we can say, oh, your kid is making progress or they are not making progress. And you're right, it's completely arbitrary. Like, so be real. Like that grading is not for the kids. It is not for the children.
We got a great question, Bianca. How do you get buy-in for that? I think you have to have a situation in which there ain't no options, right? I don't think you get. it's one of those situations where you got to go Thanos on it. Like, look, fam, we're not going to compromise because this is my big problem with the word compromise. There are 2 definitions to the compromise, right? To compromise something and to compromise something are being 2 different things. To compromise, me and Webs may compromise on what toppings do you want on your pizza, Webs? Pepperoni and cheese, whatever. We can compromise. I hate onions. Okay, if you take the onions off, I'll take the mushrooms off or whatever. But the more you compromise often, the more you compromise the actual goal that you're trying to deal with. So I think part of it is we cannot go and start trying to rationally speak to people who are holding on to a disruptive and destructive means by which to carry out education. All right. If you wanted to hold grades, the only people that really need grades are college seniors, right? Or high school seniors, rather. Because colleges are old, fuddy-duddy, crusty institutions that will not change. But K-12, to me, you don't have a situation in which you can negotiate why a first grader is getting grades. Why? This is a person who doesn't know how to do very much in terms of the academics. Of course, they're not going to do it well all the time. We know that. So why am I giving you an F for something, Bob? I don't want to give you an F. It's a continuum. And the A, the B, the C, the E, the F, that doesn't tell you how far you've grown in a certain place. It just says in a way that's really final, this is the grades you earned. And the idea of earning grades is also fallacious, right? You see totally, I don't know how many Twitter posts I've seen or Facebook posts I've seen with I don't give grades, that kids earn them. And you're like, all right, for real, fam? The kids earn them? Okay. So I want you to make that same argument when you're getting observed and evaluated by your administrator. I don't give the whatever in the NEPF. You earned it. And you go right to your union and say, nope, I'm a good teacher. Because like I said before, and I've said this to my brother 5 million times, I'm saying it on air right now, I have never met a teacher that's not a good teacher. Have you ever met somebody as a teacher who said they're not a good teacher, Webs?
No, not that they self-reported that they were not a good teacher.
No self-reporting. No, I'm not a good teacher. Every teacher I've ever met in my life has been a good teacher. All right. That is a problem, fundamentally. Me, I have never considered myself some master of the craft. There's always a blind spot. There's always something you can't do, something you need to improve on, etc. And that's where you have PLNs. You talk to people, all that kind of wonderful stuff. If if we as adults have to do that, why can't students be given the same grace without a absolute value that says you are a B student in math? What does that even mean? What does that mean? What part?
It
You're
means
telling
you
me,
got approximately 80 to 90% on all of your assignments. That's
and
really it.
so they're
Were
different.
those assignments fair assessments? Were those assignments sound assessments?
Um, could you tell me that what
Was
standard
it one assessment where
was it?
you got 4 of
17?
the questions right?
Exactly. So I mean, it leaves so much entropy in the system. You're like, this is a worthless way to tell somebody what they're worth, right? I mean, it's kind of stupid. It's silly.
So I have a different answer to that question. I think part of the way you get buy-in is by having the conversations. I think it unfortunately is a very slow process. So in a lot of places, grades are like written into the law that you have to have some sort of assessment. Grades are the cheapest way to do it, whatever. I think part of the way you start to get buy-in is by having these conversations about how grades are totally counter to social emotional learning if that's something that we value. They're totally counter to equity if that's something that we value. There really isn't much stopping a teacher from saying, I don't like this kid and therefore I'm going to fail them. There is no other check on that whatsoever. So I think that part of it is having those conversations, not only amongst each other, but with administrators, with other people in the field, writing to your legislature, saying we need to change the way we assess students, communicating with your superintendent, communicating that if we value equity and social emotional learning, then grades are problematic. I mean, we have to be honest about that. I've seen 8-year-olds who are in tears because they get a B. You know, depending on what the environment is like at home as well, that could have some very detrimental consequences.
Facts.
And so continuing this charade that it is a completely equitable, fair, balanced way of doing things, it's BS. And we have to call it what it is.
Facts, facts, facts. I mean, but to add on to what you're saying, though, or to push back a little bit, rather, like I love having conversations with people. I think conversations can be wonderful and great and productive if we're coming to the table in a spirit of yes, we want to improve this thing. Now, unfortunately, it's like having conversations with anti-maskers, right? Like, cool, I don't want to have a conversation with you anymore. We've said the science works this way. This is what happens. Put the mask on. No, 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 no. That's where I get frustrated with the having continually have conversations with people and to have the individuals who are at the top of the pyramid who have access to research and understanding. Most of these superintendents are doctors. You know, for this not to be a thing that the people at the top are saying, you know what, we need to reevaluate how we're actually treating students in a way that also is um, it gives students, no matter what their background is, a fair, equitable way to say this is where I stand in this regard. Because you also have the conversation with the grading, you also have to have the conversation with if standards are end of course ideas, then grades should only be given one time. And that should be at the end of the school year, right? It shouldn't be, I get 4 report cards. No, I get 1 report card. I get multiple progress reports toward that grade where I'm saying these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, and someone should be walking me through. You're really strong here, Johnny, but we need to work on these things. And you're going to have multiple opportunities to work on these same standards as we finish or as we continue through the school year. Since that is not all, because that's the way you could save grades. If you said it would be one-time report cards and kids were going to give opportunities to, in a on-demand, asynchronous way, to continue to practice those skills multiple times, then I think you can give the kid an A, B, C. Because we gave you 35 times to do what you needed to do, and by the end of the school year, you got the A or the B or the C or whatever, and then you moved on. Great. There was no penalties or anything learning the entire school year. The penalty, that problem I have with the penalty situation is, you know, yo, fam, you were giving me these things every quarter. You're never revisiting those standards ever. These are standards one quarters, about standard quarter one standards. All right, great. I'm seeing this again. Nope, you're not seeing this ever again because I don't got time to go back and loop it.
So I'm going to disagree with you there. I think grades just need to be straight burned down. I don't think there is any redeeming them, keeping them at the end. Because if you keep them at the end of it's like if you keep them a little bit, then we start sliding back into, okay, but we'll just have them at the end of the semester. Oh, we'll just have them at the, like, then we're just right back to the old system. I think they just need to be burned down altogether.
I mean, that was my first hustle. Like, I don't think they should exist. But if you had to compromise, as again, people, conversations lead to compromise. So you're gonna have individuals saying, "Oh no, we can't live with the grades because what are we going to tell the parents? How are we going to report this to their parents? The parents have to know." It's the same reason why the spelling list thing still, like, I'm gonna give you the spelling test. Why? Because your mom expects you to be able to spell CBC words. Okay, radio. Let's spend like time that we don't have dealing with that.
I like the kids who have figured out that if they like turn on closed captioning while they're doing their spelling tests, they can just copy the closed captioning.
The accessibility is on the Chrome that gives you the same thing. Accessibility.
Yep.
These kids ain't stupid. Like,
or you can spell check if you're doing it in a Google Doc.
It's just like spelling, unfortunately, is not a thing we need. 25, 30 years ago, yes, you might have to be a champion speller. Now, that's not something that has to happen. What's your last?
Nah.
Oh, that was your last strategy, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was my last strategy.
All right, super dope. The only other thing that I have in terms of strategies is like there is no time. Time is a social construct. Like, again,
I like it.
Like, no time, fams. Like, if you turn in something, again, if I'm doing things asynchronously, you are by definition saying there is no time because I can get this when I want to, when I'm ready for it.
Also, I'd really like us to stop shaming people who aren't early risers. Like,
yes, please.
I've seen so much crapping on people and students because they turn in assignments at 11 p.m. or 1 a.m. or, hey, maybe that's when they work best. How about you just back up because there's nothing wrong with that.
The homie Webbs is an early riser. I am not. I will be up until 3 this morning doing work. This is what I do. Now, unfortunately, I am punished for functioning that way because if during a regular school day, I would start at 7:10. So that'd be 4 hours and 10 minutes. I zombie walk. Thank God we're asynchronous because everything is recorded, but I zombie walk through that first 3 or 4 hours of my day. About 9 o'clock, 9:30, my brain cuts back on and we're good. But yeah, that's another thing that's kind of messed up. And we already know from countless research surveys, your high school and middle school friends are nocturnal animals. So it is a punishment for kids in the Clark County School District, for example, to have a 5:25 bus route time. I got to be out there at 5:25. I got an hour and a half ride. I ride to so-and-so spot. I mean, nah, I too would be failing because which brings us to the other issue with the grades, not to go back there, but how much of grading has to do with, was that test given in an optimal time for me? Was my teacher actually someone who was competent to teach this thing? Was it given in given in terms of the vehicle of instruction? Was that vehicle of instruction actually secure and safe? There's a lot of so many variables in that chain of events that makes it so unreliable that I don't even know why we still have this conversation. Like that, the grades thing should be kaput.
Yep, agreed.
Everybody in our state that I've spoken to on the record and off the record agrees with that situation. So it is what it is. All right, let's move to teaching ideas, not the best tools, teaching ideas for the school year. Webbs. What were things that was like, hey, you know what? That was a cool idea that I saw. I really think that this is something that people should get down with. Go ahead.
So this is kind of a reverse thing. We've talked a lot about Schlechty's levels of engagement lately, and it got me thinking about how that applies to the working world. And so I wrote a blog post about applying Schlechty's levels of engagement to meetings, basically, and how you want to think about the people that you're engaging with in a meeting. Like if you're a meeting organizer, making sure that they are at that engagement level and not at the ritual compliance level or strategic compliance level. And so I gave a couple of strategies for how to be able to do that. I can share the link to my blog in the chat, but that I think was one of the better teaching ideas I had this year to share teaching world with the working world or the tech world, I guess.
Indeed, indeed. The first one, straight up, take naps, homie. Take naps. That's the number one hustle that I encourage our students. When you're not on a live session, go set up an alarm for a couple seconds, 10, 15 minutes, go lay your head down. And, this, ooh, excuse me, one of the things my mom used to think that used to tell me all the time that I thought was an old wives' tale was like, hey, when you go and start reading stuff and you really need to remember it, go take a nap. And I was like, Ma, you crazy. That stuff don't work. And I would do it and I would wake up like with all these ideas in my head with these connections made between things. So integrating the nap into the school day to me is an idea that should be taken. If I ever open a school, will be taken. Like, yo, you will take it. This is the nap, the siesta period. Go in siesta, my dudes. When I was in Spain, that so in Spain, the siesta is law, right? You go through, you eat lunch, and then stuff is closed because everybody's napping, restaurants are closed, everything's there. Taiwan, in school, we're taking naps right after lunch. There is science that supports the idea that naps are important things. Getting a good night rest, important. Also, taking many naps in between the day in order to retain information, also scientifically backed stuff, man. So, my first teaching idea is, encourage the kids to take naps. If I was a classroom teacher in elementary, especially, there would be a nap period. We going to sleep for 20 minutes. Mr. Lang will walk around. You take your little pillows out, put your pillow on your desk, take a nap, homie, or catch up with your whatever. But this is going to be a peaceful period. Put the Calm app on or the Headspace app on. They have them little waves floating through. Close your eyes and be quiet for 20 minutes, fam.
I used to think that like the science behind sleep was nonsense. And then I hit a point where I was getting sick a lot and I was like, all right, I'm willing to try anything. And so I started actually reverse planning when I needed to go to bed. So like if I need to wake up by this time, that means I need to get this amount of sleep and that means I need to go to bed by this time. Wow, does it make a difference? Not only that, but I've been reading a lot more about like nutrition and fitness science over the last like year and a half. And one of the top recommendations is like you sleep is your foundation. If you're not well rested, everything else is just like futile and you're wasting your energy. Also, I will say it's not just for teachers, but for remote workers, especially if you're like just having a rough day. I'll nap on my lunchtime. I'll take a slightly longer lunchtime and take a nap because whew, it makes all the difference. Sometimes that's the thing that can get me through the rest of the day if I'm really having a hard time.
And word to Bianca, in Taiwan, the teachers take naps too. I have my pillow, and Mama Rachel, if you watching, my pillow still exists. It's a Winnie the Pooh pillow that I put on my desk. I put my head down on my desk and go to sleep. I think it's not it's not uh, unknown at our school to know that on my prep period, if I'm finished everything I'm supposed to do, I set a timer for 27 minutes. I drink some coffee and I put my head down. And 27 minutes later, it's like I'm a new person. Um, the caffeine kicks in around minute 25. If you don't know about nappuccinos, if you're a coffee drinker, hot coffee, or slow coffee is even better. A cold coffee rather is even better. So we got cold brew because that slow drip of that cold that cold brew works wonderfully. But the nappuccino is tried and tested. It's a wonderful strategy to deal with. We have any other ideas?
My next idea was just 1% better. I know we've talked about that before now, but I've really been reinforcing that this year is just not trying to do everything all at once, but trying to just like break things down into really small, like I don't need to do everything today. As long as I'm doing something and I'm making progress on it, that's all that matters. And I think especially when you're thinking about like the new world of virtual teaching and remote learning and all that kind of thing. Not trying to learn everything all in one night or whatever, but just investing maybe like 5-10 minutes in a tool, a strategy, whatever, and building on it day after day after day. Consistency, I think, is going to get you a lot farther. And habit stacking is going to get you a lot farther than trying to go super hard, super fast.
Big facts, big facts. I agree. My last idea is stop planning by yourself. Like literally, if I teach first grade and you teach first grade and somebody else teaches first grade, why are we planning independently? hey, we can sit down at the table and plan the whole year out. This is what we're going to deal with. Not, we're going to do this in March. And this, no, no, no. The day by day, the understanding, the projects, all that stuff down, the assessments, everything, lock it down, do what we need to do. And now my Nappuccinos are even more satisfying because I know all my stuff is done rather than having to get up and worry about things, especially our elementary friends who got to do RTI and all this progress monitoring and all this kind of stuff like that. You've got 35,000 things to do on a regular basis. Cutting out the planning and executing piece of it is going to save you so much time and leave you a far less cranky person. I hated when I was back in the, as a classroom teacher. I hated the fact that I had to go in. You're looking at all this stuff you have to cover, and this is like again. Last time I taught fifth grade full time was 2012, something like that, 2011, 2012. Excuse me. And at that time, every last one of our kids had a MacBook Pro. Having to plan those things with the idea that kids didn't have internet at home, and we still had to go through things face to face. And that's what Webs. That was back when Edmodo was the jam. I was Edmodo and everything. Like everything was in Edmodo. It was kids could they could kind of go at their own pace as long as I get the stuff in there. But it was still just me and Garcia. Shouts out to Garcia. She's a principal now. But now with the internet, the fact that you can have a PLN, and shouts out to Bianca. She has a dope PLN on Facebook with the African American History Group. You can plan with people that's not even in your state, in your school, in your orbit, and get these things out and really do some cool stuff and get it out the way. And like we're working with our Canvas cohort right now, Webs. Like it is not too early to start planning for next school year, getting this stuff all collated and calibrated so that August of 2021, no matter if we're face to face, not face to face, whatever it is, you're good and you are chilling. So that'd be my last.
To quote another famous poet, the poet Ludacris, move, get out the way, get out the way, get out the way.
Indeed.
Move.
That's a classic. That is a classic poem, actually. One of my favorites from my graduate experience. Indeed. So
tools.
Now it's tools time. So we got through strategy. We got the ideas. What tools you really think should be like things that people hold on to?
Oh, okay. This one's tough, but the first tool I thought of was actually Nifty, which was a tool that you introduced me to for project management because it is a very solid tool. It's a very mature tool in terms of keeping ideas organized, especially if you're working with a crew of people. I think Nifty is fabulous. They have an app that was huge for me. And you can have conversations, you can assign tasks. It's set up so that you can have like little stories and things. And yeah, Nifty, I think, is a super awesome tool.
And that's like, it's the if you're somebody like yourself who is an uber organized person thing, yeah, I really like. Again, what the homie Webs is the analytics part of this crew. She's the Billy Bean of this scenario here. If you have not figured that out as of yet, but Nifty looks like this. Really dope. It works on everything. All right, you can deal with the Mac app too if you want to deal with that Mac app. Windows app is there.
There's a Mac app.
Yes, there's a Mac app. Webs. How have you been getting to it?
I just use the web. Oh. But this is life changing. Like
you were part of the Mac app, so yes, the DMG. Just download and do what you need to do.
Oh, that's iOS genius.
Right, so
Mac. Here we go.
Windows is a Windows app on your phone, on your iPad, or whatever. Again, if you're looking to be more organized in the 2020s. There you got that deal. My first one would be the GIMP kit. Just because, like, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, the GIMP kit is off the chain. And it costs $60, but it is worth the $60. It is created by a high school student, right? All right. He comes up, this kid, I want to meet the kid. Really, really dope. This ink is going to be the joint, all right? Because this is going to work across contact area, content areas in order for everyone to write in some really dope stuff with the idea that we're publishing things. That is the dope thing. And so I'm really interested in getting my hands on this thing, and I'm like so excited. It's not going. I was on the wait list. I did not get into the wait list group. I'm so irritated with that, but it is going to pop up in January 2021. I am so excited. This is like the one Christmas gift that I want very, very badly, Webs. I want it. I want it. I want it. I want it. I want that very, very bad. So it is like I'm really excited about it because I think it is going to integrate into how I do things so very much smoother than having kids have to write things in Google Docs or whatever. If this is this iterative process in which I can write in a pseudonym, like making kids do all this really creative stuff in one spot. Oh, I'm chopping at the bit. What is your next tool, Wells?
Okay, my next tool, because I was thinking about this maybe a little bit differently. I think it might be just for iOS. But let me just check and make sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just for iOS. But I'm gonna share it anyway because I'm a huge fan of this app. And it's Fitbod. So I think that taking care of yourself physically is important as much as like, making sure all your work gets done and everything. I've noticed a huge difference in my ability to get through life because I've been paying a lot closer attention to my physical fitness. And this makes it so easy. Oh my gosh. So that's what I love about Fitbod. And if you are really interested in Fitbod, let me know. I have like codes to give away. But yeah, so basically the way it works is like you have the app and you set your goals. So you say like, oh, for me, I want to lift heavy. Maybe somebody else is like, I just want to do body weight workouts. And you can tell it like what equipment you have access to, what your goals are, and it'll just program a workout for you, like how often you want to work out per week. It'll just program workout for you. And it'll keep track of like what muscles are fatigued so it doesn't overwork anything. You can rate like how difficult a thing was and it adjusts and it gives you new exercises. And it just makes it so effortless. Like you can connect it. Like I have it connected with my Apple Watch. It connects with a couple other apps. So like if I go for a run with my Apple Watch, then it'll record that in Fitbod and it won't suggest workouts that use like my leg muscles because I've already worked those out. It just makes it like so effortless to work out that I love that app so much.
That's super dope. I had to look at that myself. So Fitbod.
Yeah.
Fitbod. Very cool. Very cool. I like that. Indeed, indeed. For my next one, it would be Annotate TV. Now, this has very quickly become my go-to jam. If you're a teacher that's using YouTube, it is absolutely necessary that you use the homie Matty. And Matty is his name. He's he's another like early 20s, late teens kid. Very, very dope tool, and not for the reasons he created it with. All right. So his whole thing with this deal was like, hey, let's go and give this to people, and then they would go take the videos and use the timestamp thing, annotations to like write notes from the thing. And I was like, yeah, that's really dope. But as a teacher, how would I use this thing, right? In order to transmit information to our students, because there is a price, right? So my students don't have $5 a piece. They also, if they the free one, they only get 5 videos. All right. This is the thing. So the homie Matt, if you can't afford the $5 a month, what he'll do is like he'll catch you a deal. He's really interested in just getting this into people's hands. So after this little quick demo, you're like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. He can get it for you for half price. Like I pay $2 a month for the product. And you know, it's just super dope. So I'm just going to demonstrate this very, very quickly. And let's just take
also something that was super fascinating. We work at the school, and one of the teachers had mentioned that she was having a hard time because certain YouTube channel or video got blocked. So she ran it through Annotate TV as a proxy, but didn't put any annotations on it. And it made it so that the video was now accessible to her students. And so he contacted her and was like, hey, why do you keep doing these videos but not annotating any things? So I think it's also super fascinating that like he is curious about the way people use his product.
Facts. That's how he got in contact with me. Like he really, I was taking the pride, and I still do. I take his videos, I put them in an iframe, and then I put them inside of Canvas because I wanted to use it as a pacing mark. I use the notes as pacing markers for students. So if you've used Nearpod, one of the things I hated about how the Nearpod video works right now, it is either I can add a multiple choice question or open response question or whatever, but I can't truly like uh, place video on top of video on top of video on top of video on top of video the way that I would like. So the cool thing about this is I can go to any point in the video and I can say, listen to this is important. So I can have a situation where I call this, whatever this is at 27 seconds, I call that out to the student. All right, great. You'll need to know this in order to complete MK Ultra. All right, cool. Now, you can get the text on video that I have the premium situation there. You can also link this. I'm gonna link this to that current time that's there. I can type in there. I can embed things. I can go and put a table inside there. It's a lot of links to other resources that might be valuable for that student to know. And I check that off, and my note is right there. All right. Super cool for kids, especially my little friends and their grown-ups. As they're walking through projects, here's the video Mr. Lane wants us to deal with. Here are the important bits. So not if I don't have time to go do that, or if there's a particular part I forgot, I did everything and it still doesn't work. Oh, let me see if there's a note that shows me exactly what the deal is.
Also, it's essentially it's the virtual equivalent of showing your class a video and then pausing it and telling them something that they need to know in this certain section and then continuing to play it again.
And I don't even have to be the originator of the video. This is Hank Green and friends. I'm at that save button. If I was logged in, hit the save button, it would save to my account and you'd be good to go. All right. So Web, I love that tool. It's a tool that I use again on a daily basis in order to get my instruction to students. And also, I think in terms of asynchronicity, it's important that because you cannot make a video on YouTube for students and add the cards anymore, that by proxy creates the cards for you. What's the last tool, Webbs?
My last tool comes from the amazing Mr. Mike Lang, and that is cold brew and lemonade. So I discovered that the local coffee shop that I go to does not have lemonade, which was a frustrating experience for me. And I couldn't drive to Grouchy John's every morning to get cold brew and lemonade. There is, however, a Sonic between me and my coffee shop. So what I would do in the morning over the summer, because summer is my cold drink time and now is my warm drink time, I would stop at Sonic and buy a small lemonade, then go to the coffee shop and buy a regular sized cold brew, and then go home and mix them both. And it was like the perfect ratio of cold brew to lemonade to make a giant cold brew and lemonade. And it was amazing.
Oh, indeed. Oh, indeed.
It powered many of my summer work days.
Indeed, Holmes. Well, we got,
So
cold brew and orange crush. Cold brew.
Cold brew and squirt.
There's tons of ways to do that. If you are caffeinated, if you're a caffeine junkie, rather, like cold brew and most citrus drinks are going to give you that needed high there, Holmes.
Ooh, I have to try cold brew and Mountain Dew.
See, I don't do Mountain Dew. It's not my thing.
I like Mountain Dew, and it's a citrus-based soda, so I feel like it would work. The squirt is really good. I'm a big fan of the squirt. I bought more squirt so I could do cold brew and squirt.
I have not had a squirt in years.
Oh my God, I love squirt. It's so good. Ooh, cold brew and 7-Up. I wonder what that would be like.
So cold brew and what did I drink? Cold brew and Sprite works pretty decently. It's not the best, so I'm assuming 7-Up will have a similar
Yeah, I feel like it's not sour enough.
Yeah, it doesn't pop as much. It's just kind of like you just
Yeah.
added some
Yeah.
syrup to it.
Hmm.
I wasn't a fan. All right, my last one ish, and I'm going to cheat because I want one. I'm going to use one more. If you're not on the Adobe Spark bandwagon, like get familiar, man. It's something that we have used, have shouted out multiple times. Um, it is a wonderful tool. They're adding design assets now, and like it's if you're a part of the Clark County School District, you and your students have access to the premium Adobe Spark for free 90. Excuse me, excuse me, 99. It also integrates into Canvas, so you can actually send assignments, Adobe Spark assignments from Canvas to your students with no problems. It is wonderful. I love the tool. Adobe deserves like a shout out. The only beef I got with it, Webs, is the real time collaboration is still not a thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, dude, like, there's no reason not to use this tool. It's amazing. It is an amazing tool. You've got all your social media stuff is in there, building web pages, your videos in there. If you use the video for audio too, you can take the audio, extract the audio, doing it using another tool. You can build collages, you can build graphics, all kind of stuff, man. All kind of stuff. Yeah, but I mean, I think a lot of people really were not fans of Canvas, but I think the not fans of Canvas was because the district didn't do a good job of the professional learning opportunities that should have been available to teachers. But in terms of being able to plan your entire school year
Speaking
out,
of which,
oh, we'll get to that at the end, though, Webs.
okay.
The You can't just hand people a tool and say figure it out. Like that's just doesn't happen. And I think that's unfortunately, yeah, Schoology, that was Webb's jam. So Schoology was Webb's jam. I don't think that
I haven't used it in ages though, just to be fair.
but what I'm saying is those tools did not innovate, right? So I popped on the Edmodo just for kicks and giggles about 2 weeks ago, and I was like, come on, man. Like you could, and who knows what the premium parts of Edmodo do or don't do or whatever. But I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this unequivocally with I'm not going to take this back at all or whatever. If you're not looking at a tool like Canvas or something that is very similar to that in 2021 and beyond, teachers are going to be, they're going to be working harder for no reason. Canvas allows you to build modules and just hand them to somebody else and they can plug it right into their course. So I don't have to be an expert in Agile, for example. If Webb's is on my PLN and Webb says, hey, I'm going to build the Agile modules for you, they're going to walk your kids through the Agile properties or practices. Great. I take that from Webb's and I plug it in my course. God bless you. It's like Transformer stuff. All right. We running one like the Edmodos, and they're running in this kind of siloed situations where teachers are exchanging ideas but not exchanging actual product that says, I don't have to build this. You already built it for me. Let me stick it in here and God bless you.
Blackboard is trash. So
Yeah,
I'm sorry to anyone who has to deal with Blackboard because that's like some 1999 nonsense.
big physics. Last
Legit.
one.
I when I went to undergrad, I believe we used Blackboard.
I don't even remember. I don't think we used the computers at all in undergraduate
Yeah.
school, to tell you the truth.
Well, you're old, so that
I
makes
am.
sense.
I am old. I mean, I am. So the last one to kind of just like throw out there because our hope is that in 2021 people are going to be doing some sexier stuff with video. If you need free crap for your videos, Mixkit got you covered. All right. So when you have kids, you're like, hey, I really want to do some dope stuff. Cool. You got a bunch of, free stock videos there with really interesting, weird stuff in there. You need music? They got you covered, fam. There's music and stuff in there. There's the music. Great. I don't want you to use copyrighted music. Sound effects. There you go. Handle your business. You just can't sell them. So the thing is here, the thing that you cannot do on Mixkit, according to their license, you can't take this stuff and make it commercialized. You can use it for personal projects, etc. And that's what generally your students are going to be dealing with. They're not going to be selling stuff. They'll be using things for personal projects. My students right now are working on their portfolios. They're going to have to create some kind of multimedia elements in order to add to that. And guess where I'm telling them to go? They're going to go to Mixkit. There's some stuff that you can deal with, kid. Throw it in your Adobe Spark video. Just upload it inside there. Boom, 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 boom. Handle your business. We good.
So I gave a presentation at work the other day, and I put together an entire Prezi video, like deck or whatever you want to call it, and then found out it's not compatible with the most recent version of Teams.
Oh, ew.
It was like a stab to my heart. I was so sad. I was so sad. I was like, well, I'm glad I put all that work in. Thanks, Microsoft.
That blows, man.
Yeah. Oh my God. Don't even get me started, Bianca. Like, at work, we literally have hashtag thanks Microsoft for all the things that go wrong with Teams. Like, the one thing you want from your video system is for it to be consistent, and Teams is anything but. Like, we will have people that, like, someone will mute someone else because they didn't realize they were unmuted, and then they just can't unmute themselves, and the person that muted them can't unmute them. Or, like, sometimes you can share your browser window and sometimes you can't. Like, I could do a whole hour-long episode ranting about Microsoft Teams.
The only Microsoft product I roll with is Xbox. Outside of that, I don't play with it. So, I mean, I don't have none of the Microsoft Office, any of that garbage on my device. Yeah, shout out to people who are Microsoft homies.
So
that's
bad.
great. I only play with the Xbox. My Xbox X I'll probably get around my birthday, so I still got 3 or 4 months till I buy that. But other than that, yeah, I'm good. Facts.
Yeah. I don't there's almost always like a call in one of the like local Facebook groups for teachers here for like, oh, how do we get our Microsoft Office? It's like, but why? Why would you want that? You have Google. Like, why do you want that? Why?
Unless I will. So the only thing, Webs, if you are a Microsoft ninja, like if you know all the high level hacks and all that kind of stuff that make stuff do flips and stuff inside of Microsoft and PowerPoint, things like that, absolutely positively, I'm not running your parade. Handle your business. Make it do what it do. If all you do is type in Microsoft Word, fam, leave that below.
I think those people are superheroes. I still think the product is trash.
So Schoology has a big blue button. I love it. Okay, it's big blue button is a video, the video joint. Sway is dope. Okay. Sway is dope. The unfortunate thing with Sway is the app don't work on the iPad anymore. So it's like, okay, the one product I like because it was a cool publishing tool, and we exploited that like the dickens when we first got that joint. Like the kids were making little magazines, stuff like that. It was dope. And then it was like, oh yeah, after it was like 2 years ago. Yeah, we're not supporting Sway the app anymore. And the school district is something weird with Microsoft. Like our school district pays for both Microsoft and the free Google stuff, which doesn't make sense to me either. But it is what I digress. It is what it is. All right, well, just about at the end here. Yeah, that's exactly They embed, like I said, that was the cool thing, and then we're just having this conversation with Bianca. In terms of Sway, the embed codes, that was the one product that I was super excited about, and then they went and they destroyed Minecraft too by putting that behind that login wall. Before we do Minecraft, I could just download on the devices and cool. Then the kids had to log into Microsoft in order to download the Minecraft thing.
I will say they bought GitHub, and I was worried that they were going to trash GitHub, and they've actually made some good improvements to GitHub. So that's a plus, I guess.
Maybe that GitHub crew is like insulated from the rest of Microsoft.
That could be. Like, we have your resources, but we don't have to listen to your ideas.
I mean, perhaps because I mean that's a space where actual software devs go. So you would have to do that.
Oh no, because I also work on Azure, and Azure is a hot mess. So
I tried to save Microsoft, but
yeah.
Well, what
they try.
Trends do you think should continue in 2021?
I would like to see good remote teaching continue. And I'm not talking about let's take the way we used to do things and then cram it into a Zoom call, but like actual asynchronous learning and focused small groups that are personal and short. That I would like to see the ability for students to work when it's convenient for them. The focus on building relationships, the extending of um, access to resources so that students can work remotely. I think that for students who are homeless and have to end up moving from place to place, it offers them some consistency. I think that for students who might be in rural areas, being able to plug in remotely connects them to a wider world. There are a lot of things that have sucked about not being able to see our friends and family because of the pandemic, but a lot of kind of neat things. Like I work remotely for my job every day, and I feel like I know my coworkers as well as if we actually were in the same office. So I would like to see good remote practices continue. How about you?
Interesting. I would like to see the trend of teachers not being teachers continue, right? Not siloing themselves into this place where, like, I think
Look,
let me reiterate and rephrase that. All right, I don't necessarily think that teaching is even a thing anymore because everyone is kind of a teacher, right? Like your mom's a teacher, you learn stuff off the TV. Like Bob Ross was a teacher, even though he did not have any teaching credentials. He taught people how to paint and stuff. Mr. Rogers wasn't a teacher. He didn't have any teaching credentials. He taught people. Like teaching is like this amorphous everything and nothing thing, right? And to say that the profession exists of teaching is like, okay, what does that actually mean? Always saying that the only thing that a teacher does is look at standards and say, we're going to go and teach you how to do whatever it is. I don't think that that doesn't encompass what the job actually has meant the entire time it's been a professional career in the United States. Like you look at your teachers as other parents. You look at your teachers as caregivers and guardians, as uh, tour guides on the adventures that you go to school. Like there's the teacher thing doesn't exist to me in some kind of cut and dry. This is the box we're going to put you in thing. So I think a lot of teachers this school year, if they didn't realize that before, are realizing now that if the limits to your job are here's the spelling word list, learn the spelling words, or here are the vocabulary words, learn the vocabulary words, and there's not a Miss Frizzle hiding inside of you where we're going on entertaining adventures and people are laughing and joking and we're learning stuff, then perhaps things need to be reassessed. And I think just the TikToks I've watched this year, the YouTube videos I've watched this year, the conversations I've had with teachers, the PL, my ever expanding and growing PLN and being exposed to other people's ideas, and I think it's really dawning on me that people are realizing that the the teacher thing is a 2019 deal. You know what I'm saying? In 2021, we've got designers or we've got architects or we've got I happen to work in a school, but teaching is just a small piece of what I do. I'm I don't know. I'm someone who creates educational opportunities for students that are going to be meaningful and impactful and allow students to be the best them they can be while at the same time understanding that there's a different world that has happened after 2020. I'm referring to pre 2020 is the old world for me. Everything that came before that is not the way we should continue doing our practices. And I think that teachers as edutainment, teachers as architects, teachers as um, like innovative, creative people, and that being almost like a part of the job. I think that is the future of the profession. Not here are your vocabulary words and your spelling words. And Bob speaks Spanish, so I don't have to have the same level of rigor. that because he speaks a different language or something like that. That's just my personal teaching trend. I hope continues in 2021.
Yeah, I think the whole magic circle thing, kids can actually get up and walk out. They can turn off, they can tune out, they can hang up. They're not hostages of the classroom. So if you're not going to make it an engaging, exciting experience, then why would you want to be there? I wouldn't want to be there.
I mean, the oppressive nature of schooling has been encapsulated and captured in multiple
I,
studies.
I said in a tweet a couple days ago, more like the school is prison pipeline.
I mean, it is what it is, fam. Like you can't go to the bathroom. Um, yeah, I mean, so my beef with the vocab because I got an argument with not an argument, and we had a conversation with a secondary teacher about vocabulary words, and she was like, "I give vocabulary lists all the time." I was like, all right, that's cool. I mean, I'm not hating on vocabulary word lists. That's not what my beef is. If you give me some words out of context, right, that I never have to contextually use at all, that I never see in context, that I'm not reminded over and over what these things mean, like, what's the point?
From someone who has an ELA background, like that was my major in college, there is little benefit to long ass vocabulary lists. And apparently we're a PG show. I think that's the first time I've ever cursed on our show. But there is very little benefit to really long vocabulary lists. There is some small benefit to a short number of words that you front load if they're really complex, and you know that students are going to see them in what they read, so that they're prepared for that. But yeah, giving them some like, here's 20 words, you need to know the meaning of all of them, like as is the tendency in social studies, like not hating on social studies, I'm just saying like that's where it tends to happen. And science, for some reason, it's not beneficial and it's not helpful. Like it needs to be a very limited, we're talking like no more than 3 or 4 words, and they have to be front loaded for purposefully with context, as Bianca said. And even then, it's like, yeah, the benefits are minimal. So yeah, really long vocabulary lists are a waste of time and energy.
Where do you
Having them like write sentences and then write definitions. Dur, 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 dur.
you see what Bianca just said? She's a social
Oh, I
studies
do.
teacher, so
Yeah, yeah. That's,
like,
that's why I qualified
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Watch yourself, man. Watch the throne, Wes. Watch the throne. But like, I mean,
It's true.
you learn your words from
Yeah.
consuming things.
I used to do vocabulary tickets with my students. So they had these little tickets, and when they would hear a new word not in class, so out in the world, or they'd read it or they'd see it on TV or whatever, they'd write it down and then bring it in. And we would talk about, like, where did you hear this? Tell me more about it. Because then it's anchored to an experience and it becomes meaningful. And we'd throw it up on our vocabulary wall and or our word wall and whatever. And they loved building the word wall, like, because then it was like an accumulation. It was talking, going back to the octalysis framework. It was the this idea of like achievement, right? You're seeing all these badges that you're getting up there as you learn new words and go back and reuse them. My kids are really good at giving insults with $10 vocabulary words.
Or also, you as teacher using the vocabulary you want them to learn constantly. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, every kid that I taught knew what surreptitious means. I meant, all right, I'm going to give you
Loquacious was a
loquacious,
big one for our
garrulous,
class.
what you
Yeah.
continue to pepper those words around, and kids start looking at you like, what does that mean? Cool. Here's what it means. So I'm gonna continue to use it. Um, you know, there's far too many other ways to get words and ideas and concepts to kids' brains rather than here's a list of words that are out of context that nobody cares about in the first place, and we rock and roll, right? Um, I will tell you, and you this is all these kids are in their 20s now, which is terrifying to me. Utilitarianism, if you ask any of my fourth graders at the time to define utilitarianism, they're in their 20s now, they could probably do it. We talked about utilitarianism all the time, unfortunately, when I was teaching fourth grade in Mississippi. So shout out to my Mississippi students out there. They have, a lot of these kids have master's degrees now, which is terrifying. I feel very, very old at this point. But
That's because you are.
and this is
I say that like you're so much older than me.
yeah, again. So the like a lot of the stuff that we're doing, but hopefully people are looking back and reflecting and saying, uh, I could do this so much better now if I embrace the technologies that are currently available to me. If I say that I can clone myself 45 different times now. The The other thing that I think I'm going to very, very much push back on, and people are going to be really mad at me the teachers are going to be really mad at me. Right now, the whole I've got 45 people in my classroom thing doesn't apply anymore. Let's go keep it 100. You got 45 kids in so and so class. So, like now that is not a thing anymore. That excuse has been taken away in a lot of ways. Now, if you decide not to use the technology to clone yourself 45 times, to me that's on you, B. And if we want to go to research, John Hattie unfortunately is like he's like the new hotness, right? So go and read Hattie and see what the actual effects of having 40 kids in the classroom is. My thing is as well, 40 kids in the classroom. How could we go and utilize the technology so there's never 40 kids in the classroom? Right? Why does it have to be 40 kids in a classroom when the technology allows us not to have that happen? So I'm just keeping it 100. Like there are ways
There,
to avoid this. Go ahead, Webbs.
there was a parent in a Facebook group who is freaking out because their kid got put into a class with 40 other kids. And it's like, but when you're online, why does that matter?
Poor dog.
And she was like, well, cuz it does. Okay.
Like what? Not to again belabor this. 2021, post COVID. Why can't half the class stay home? If I don't want to come to class, then I all your stuff is online anyway, right? Cool. All your stuff is built. These kids are just going to check in at home. Hey, Miss Weber, I'm good. Cool. Homie, all you need to do is send me an email if you're confused about anything or whatever. I'll get with you when we get with my office hours going to be this time, and we do what we need to do. The other 12 kids decided to come to this class today. Cool. Everybody's working on their Chromebook anyway at their own pace. Great. Cool. What the beef is? What the beef is?
That's how my job works. Like if I need to talk to somebody, hey, are you free right now? Can we jump on a call? I do that all the time with my coworkers. Or we do open collaboration rooms where we'll like just be on a call and have it in an open channel somewhere. It would be super cool if like schools would move to something where there were like public chat channels and you could just, hey, this is our small group and we're working on module 1, so if you need help, jump into this group, just like they do with the Among Us.
Here's Google
like we're just all going to get on a call.
Here's Google Meet. I can break you into the little breakout rooms. I can have some kids in the classroom, some kids out of the classroom. Everybody's working together, whatever. Cool. I'm going to leave the call open. Mr. Lang's going to peace out. You guys do what you need to do. I'll pop back in here in about 15, 20 minutes. You got questions, I'll answer the questions. God bless you.
Yep.
Like at this point, there are no real excuses. If you don't got the internet and you don't have the computers, that's when you walk to your legislators and say, if you are going to tell us that you believe in equity, exactly, Bianca, they're already doing the crap. Like they're already doing this. My niece, fifth grade, they have their own Google Meet stuff. They organize their own games of Among Us. They have their own rules. The kids are not mongrels. And I think we treat them as if these are people who are Philistines or something like that. These kids have more knowledge in this space than you do. So instead of fearing it, exploit it. I mean, straight up and down, exploit the crap. I am not going to teach her. And this is where I'm leaving the teaching crap in the old world. I ain't about to teach all this stuff. This kid can teach that group of students over there. Great. You know what, Chase? What I need you to do is, this is stuff you already know. Teach that to these 3 people that just got in the class. Goodbye. Mr. Lang gonna take a nap. When I wake up from the nap, I'm going to go check in with Chase. Chase, did they do what they need to do? Yep, cool. They ready to take their test, Mr. Lang. God bless you. Take your test, fam. But nah, dude, the 65, 75 hour work weeks for a teacher, thing of the past, fam. Thing of the past. Unless you decide that, first of all, if you're in a school district that does not have a tool that's like Canvas or something like that, there's a way to set up Google Classroom that way. There's ways to set up Edmodo that way. There's ways to set up Schoology that way. The problem is the advanced and long-term planning of saying, this is what we want at the end. Let's reverse plan that thing all the way back to the beginning. This is all the things that need to happen.
Or if you are all about that control and compliance lifestyle and you don't want to let it go, then this is probably not the world for you anymore.
That is unfortunately also true. So if you down with that prison, the school to prison pipeline, if that's your hustle, yeah, this is not the.
Yeah. If you're all about that Go Guardian narking, probably not the world for you.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I hate on Go Guardian. I don't mean all the hate. I say it sarcastically. I think there are people who use Go Guardian to help. I did not know until recently that you can go in and take over a kid's screen and kind of walk them through things. Awesome. I wish Google Meet had that ability. Go Guardian has the ability. That works for me. But when you go in and you just shutting down YouTube off a kid situation and not asking, hey, why were you on YouTube, fam? Oh, because your math lesson was boring as a mug. Oh, okay. And you don't take some responsibility for that as a designer and saying, I need to redesign my course so that students are more engaged and the kids get value out of my course. And I think that's another reason to get away from the teacher thing, right? Teachers, you take all kind of criticism personally. Oh my gosh, I can teach. I can do it. A designer has to take that feedback and say, if I want my product to sell, let me listen to this feedback that I'm getting. All these kids are saying this is boring, this is boring, this doesn't work, this is boring, this doesn't work, this is boring. If 45 kids tell you that it was born, it doesn't work, I need to go and change how this thing works. That's the wonder of Canvas. I can make that change instantaneously, and every kid gets that change right on the device. I don't have to go through Google Classroom and cut 35 things off and move things away. The change is reflected instantaneously. I love that about Canvas. Well, you look like you had a brainstorm.
I just realized that I wanted to share the link to our class, and we are like 30 minutes over.
I mean, this is the last show of the year.
It is the last show of the year, yeah. It's an extra long episode.
Indeed. So we have a Canvas cohort class for those who are inside the Clark County School District. The next session was January the 16th. It's just an hour with little rich information and ideas. The idea is to try to build a community up of people exchanging ideas and whatnot in the Canvas space. So if you're interested or you know some teacher that might be interested, come holler at your folk.
I'd also add that it's an opportunity to experience the things we've been talking about. So evidence that like we're not just making this up. Like it actually is a way that you can teach. You can teach asynchronously. You can meet meaningfully for short periods of time and still work your way through that content. It's also an opportunity to, tell us to go shove it if it doesn't work out for you. So it's a win-win no matter how you look at it. But yeah, if you want to experience from a student perspective what it's like to go through that type of learning experience and then start to integrate that into your own classroom, this is a way that you can experience it and then also build your skills in Canvas and walk away with a unit completely done and your PLN expanded with people who can support you.
And once you've got that one scaffold, that one unit built, then it's going to be a lot easier to build those other units. As long as you stay a unit ahead of your kids, you're going to be laughing all the way to the bank because you're not going to have to. And because we all know in the education space, strange things happen, right? They crop up all the time. New district mandates, new school mandates, something else happens, whatever. Yeah, this kind of insulates you from a lot of that. And so Canvas it's a tool that once you master it, once you get to that Yoda level, look, you're not going to teach another day for the rest of your life. So straight up and down, it's a $20 class, $20, 10 sessions, tons of stuff. We're going to give you a unit planner that you can use without ever having to set foot in Canvas. You're going to build it all in that. So when you get to Canvas, it's like a wireframe. You just move that thing right on over, and bada bing, you're good to go. Again, I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. If that course does not help you, we will refund your $20, straight up and down. If the course doesn't help you, so if you find no value in it whatsoever, don't worry about it. We got you. All right. Other individuals, in terms of if you're a Clark County School District teacher, PDE course going live on January the 10th. Looking at Google Suite and PBS's learning management, learning media. PBS Learning Media is a great place to find tons of amazing things, but how do you work those into your Google stuff? And then for kicks and giggles, I added some funky stuff inside of Canvas. So how do I add that to my Canvas my Canvas instance as well? So you're getting 3 products It's a $70 class. You get to keep all the stuff that's in there. I like it. It's pretty dope. But then again, I love myself, like my mama told me. Anyway, so that's all we got for 2020. We will see you in 2021, fam. Enjoy your holidays, because there's 14 right now. We always think of Christmas as it's like the holy grail of holidays. There's a ton of really cool holidays. I challenge you to go and find out about a holiday that you're not familiar with during this time period as well. Web, you got anything to tell the people at the end?
Suck it 2020.
Hashtag.
Long live 2020, 2021.
Indeed, indeed. That's all we got. Enjoy your family, enjoy your health, be safe, and we'll see you in 2021. Holla at your folk.